The night Corbin handed her the envelope, he was smiling. That was the part Merritt kept coming back to, long after everything else had been said and proven and witnessed by every single person in that room. The smile. Not nervous, not guilty, just easy and wide, the kind of smile he used when he was certain he had already won. Merritt Calder Voss, 37 years old, stood at the center of the private dining room at the Harwick Club in Toronto and accepted the envelope from her husband's hands. Around her, 42 guests held their champagne flutes and watched. His mother, Loretta, sat at the head table with her pearls and her practiced expression of generosity, the one she wore when she wanted credit for something. His father, Gerald, stood near the bar with two of Corbin's colleagues, already mid-sentence about something, already performing. It was supposed to be a celebration. Their 10th anniversary, the guest list curated by Loretta herself, the venue booked 6 months in advance. Merritt had known about the party. She had not known about the envelope. "Go ahead," Corbin said. His voice carried, he wanted it to. "Open it." She did. Inside was a card, handwritten in Corbin's slanted script, and beneath the card a single printed document, a certificate of authenticity, for a Voss and Calder original piece, a platinum cuff bracelet, hand-engraved, part of the limited Meridian collection. She read it twice. The bracelet was not on her wrist. It was on someone else's. She had known Corbin Aldgate for 11 years, married him for 10. She met him at a fundraiser in Ottawa, where she had been representing her family's design house, and he had been there as a junior associate at a commercial property firm. He was charming the way certain men are charming when they're hungry. Attentive, quick, interested in everything you said. He remembered her coffee order the second time they met. He flew to Vancouver to see her 3 weeks into what she hadn't yet decided to call a relationship. They married in September, a small ceremony at her family's property outside of Kelowna. His parents attended, polite and watchful in the way of people who have not yet decided what they think of you. Her father walked her down the aisle. Her mother cried. Corbin cried too, which she had not expected. For the first few years, things were fine. Not remarkable, but fine. She traveled often for work, which he said he understood. He moved up quickly at the firm, which she said she was proud of and meant it. They bought a house in Rosedale. They had dinner parties. They made plans. The distance came gradually, the way it often does, not in any single argument or betrayal, but in a long accumulation of small withdrawals, a cancelled trip, a phone face down on the counter, a look across a dinner table that lasted a half-second too long and then vanished into small talk. Merritt had noticed, she had always noticed, she simply had not until 8 months ago decided to do anything about it. What Corbin did not know, what none of his family knew, what most of his colleagues did not know, was that Merritt Calder Voss was not simply a designer with a family name. Voss and Calder was hers. Not hers in the way a spouse might say our business, or an heir might say my family's company. Hers in the way that matters, legally, operationally, creatively. She had built it from a studio above a hardware store in Halifax when she was 24, had named it Voss and Calder after her grandmother's, had grown it slowly and quietly over a decade into one of the most respected jewellery and luxury goods houses in the country. Their pieces were carried in 3 boutiques in Toronto, 1 in Montreal, 1 in Calgary, and a flagship in Vancouver. They had just signed a distribution arrangement with a partner in the UK. She was the founder, she was the CEO, she was the primary creative director and the sole owner. She kept it quiet in her personal life because she had learned early that the moment people understood what she was worth, they stopped seeing her clearly. They started calculating. She had been calculating enough herself. She didn't need the people around her doing it too. Corbin knew she worked in design. He knew she traveled. He had attended 2 events over the years where Voss and Calder pieces were featured and had made polite conversation without ever connecting his wife's name to the brand she had built. She had never volunteered the connection. He had never looked closely enough to find it. His father, Gerald, was a devoted customer. He had purchased 3 Voss and Calder pieces in the last 4 years. He mentioned the brand often at dinners and in conversation as evidence of his taste. He was particularly proud of having discovered the Meridian collection before it sold out. Merritt knew this because she had personally approved the collection. She had also, 8 months ago, quietly begun reviewing the records of every piece that had left that collection. The bracelet had been purchased 6 weeks ago. She had not been the one to purchase it. The transaction record showed a Corbin T. Aldgate billing to a secondary credit account she had not known existed, shipping address listed as a condo on King Street West that was not their home. She had found this not by snooping through his phone or following him, though she had considered both. She had found it because one of her staff at the Vancouver boutique had flagged an unusual order. A man had come in personally to select the piece and had asked, specifically, whether the engraving could be customized to remove any reference to the Meridian collection and attribute it simply to a private commission. He had explained that he wanted it to appear as though he had arranged something unique and personal rather than purchased off inventory. Her staff member had noted the name on the credit card, had recognized the surname, had called Merritt directly, uncertain what to do. Merritt had told her to process the order normally. She had thanked her. She had hung up the phone and sat very still in her office in Toronto for a long time. Then she had called her legal counsel, then her private investigator. Then she had gone home, made dinner, and said nothing. 8 months is a long time to know something and say nothing. People would ask her about this later, the way the commenter had put it. Why did she tolerate it for so long? The question always assumed that tolerance was passive, that staying was the same as not knowing what to do. But Merritt had known exactly what to do. She had simply been doing it, methodically, in the time between knowing and acting. She had kept records, every suspicious charge she traced. Every evening he said he was working late, she documented. Not obsessively, but precisely, the way she ran everything in her professional life. She had collected the investigator's report, the boutique receipts, the screenshots of messages Corbin had sent directly from his personal number to the King Street condo address. She had spoken to her lawyer about what she wanted and did not want from what came next. She had decided somewhere in the 4th month that when this ended, it would end completely, and it would end publicly. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. Because she understood that Corbin Aldgate was a man who relied on other people's uncertainty, who counted on private confrontations where he could manage the narrative and walk away with his reputation intact. He had done it before. She had learned this from the investigator, who had spoken to a woman named Pauline in Ottawa, who had very quietly ended a 3-year relationship with Corbin the year before Merritt met him, after a confrontation that Corbin had spun, successfully, into a story about an unstable woman with a grudge. Merritt was not going to be a story, Corbin told later. She stood in the dining room with the certificate in her hands. The room had quieted in that particular way. Rooms quiet when they sense something is happening, when the register of a moment shifts and guests feel it before they understand it. "It's from Voss & Calder," Corbin said. He was still smiling. He looked at his father briefly, a shared look, the look of men who have coordinated. "I know you love that brand. Dad's been talking about them for years. I had the bracelet commissioned through the Meridian collection. It was the last available piece. Thought it was only right." A few guests murmured appreciatively. Loretta pressed a hand to her chest in performed emotion. "The last available piece from the Meridian collection," Merritt said. "That's right." She looked at the certificate again. "Corbin." Her voice was quiet. Not cold, not shaking. Quiet in the way she had spent 37 years practicing. "Before I say anything else, I'd like to have this authenticated." His smile didn't fall. It shifted, just slightly, tightening at the edges. "It came with a certificate. I'd like to have it verified." "Merritt, it's a party. Don't do this." "I'm not doing anything," she said. "I'd simply like to call someone who can verify the piece." She reached into her bag. She did not retrieve her personal phone. She retrieved a second phone, her business line, the one she used exclusively for Voss & Calder operations, and dialed a number she knew by memory. The room was completely silent now. The call lasted less than 40 seconds. She thanked the person on the other end. She put the phone away. "There is no bracelet from the Meridian collection with this certificate number," she said. "That collection sold out in March. Every piece has been catalogued and authenticated by our records team. This certificate has been falsified." A sound moved through the room, not a gasp exactly, more like a collective intake of breath that didn't quite release. Gerald from near the bar said loudly, "That's impossible. That brand is impeccable." "It is," Merritt agreed. She looked at him steadily. "I know because I built it." The silence changed quality entirely. "I'm sorry," Gerald said. "Voss & Calder." She spoke clearly, not raising her voice. 2011. I have been the CEO since the company incorporated. You've purchased 3 pieces from us over the years, Gerald. Thank you sincerely. The solstice earrings, the Fenwick chain, and the anniversary cuff you gave Loretta 2 Christmases ago. She paused. I approved all 3 designs. Gerald stared at her. Loretta had gone very still. Corbin's expression was no longer the easy smile. It had become something harder and more uncertain, the look of a person recalculating rapidly and finding nothing good. Merritt reached into her bag a second time. She placed a folder on the table beside the champagne glasses and the flower arrangements and the untouched anniversary cake. Inside the folder, which she opened without particular ceremony, were printed copies of 12 documents. "The first," she said, not raising her voice, not performing, simply stating the way she ran every meeting, every board review, every difficult conversation she'd had in 15 years of running a company, "is the transaction record for the bracelet Corbin purchased 6 weeks ago. It was bought at our Vancouver boutique. It was purchased on an account I didn't know he had, and it was shipped to a condo on King Street West. She looked at Corbin. He said nothing. The 2nd through 5th are records from our boutique staff, including a written account from the manager who processed the order and noted the request to remove all Meridian collection attribution, at Corbin's request. He wanted the piece to appear as a private commission, presumably so he could present it to someone as something he had arranged personally, rather than something he had pulled from inventory and rerouted. Murmurs now, not absorbed but audible. The 6th document is an investigator's report. It covers an 8-month period. She did not summarize it. She did not need to. The weight of an 8-month document in the hand of a person who had clearly known exactly what she was doing was its own statement. The remaining documents are messages Corbin sent from his personal phone. I won't read them aloud. Anyone who needs to review them for legal purposes will have access through my counsel. She closed the folder. She looked at her husband. I've spoken to a lawyer, she said. The separation papers were filed this morning. You'll receive copies by courier before the end of the day. Corbin's mouth opened. What came out was not an apology and not a denial. It was a kind of stammer, the sound of someone who had prepared for a conversation that was not this one. Merritt, you need to listen to me. Things have been difficult. I was under a lot of pressure. The firm has been. I know about the pressure at the firm, she said. She was not unkind. She was not interested. Corbin, I built a company from nothing. I have had difficult quarters. I have lost contracts and missed timelines and managed things quietly that never made it into any conversation we had at dinner because I didn't use my problems as explanations for the things I chose to do. You chose this. The pressure didn't. She picked up her glass. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the evening. She looked at the room, really looked, the way she rarely allowed herself in public, without performance or deflection. The dinner has been paid for. The staff have been tipped. Please stay. She set the glass down. She picked up the folder, tucked it under her arm, and walked toward the door. Outside, on the steps of the Harwick Club, the November air was cold and clear in the way it gets in Toronto in late autumn. That particular sharp cold that feels like something finally settling after the long uncertainty of October. Merritt stood on the top step and breathed. Her phone buzzed. A message from her operations manager, checking in. She typed back that she was fine, that she'd call in the morning, that everything was on schedule for the Vancouver opening. She put the phone in her pocket. She thought about the night she'd spent in that Halifax studio, 24, and too stubborn to admit she didn't know what she was doing, sketching a necklace design on the back of a rent envelope because she'd run out of proper paper. She thought about her grandmother Voss, who had worked for 40 years as a seamstress, and never once been given credit for the garments that bore other people's labels. She thought about what it had cost her to build something under her own name, and then spend a decade in a marriage where she'd kept that name quiet to protect herself from exactly the kind of calculation she'd just seen play out in that room. She had been right to wait. She had been right to document, to prepare, to choose the moment. And she had been right about one other thing, which she had known since the night in Vancouver when her boutique manager called, and her first reaction had not been devastation, but something closer to clarity. She did not need Corbin Aldgate to understand what she had built. She did not need Gerald Aldgate to stop bragging about a brand he didn't know belonged to his daughter-in-law. She did not need Loretta's approval or the admiration of 42 guests, or even the satisfaction of watching the smile leave her husband's face, though she would be lying to herself if she said it hadn't mattered, just a little. What she needed, she already had. She flagged down a cab. She gave the address of her office. Not the house in Rosedale, not tonight. She had 3 proposals to review and a call with the UK partner at 9 in the morning, and the January collection still needed 2 final approvals. The cab pulled into traffic. The city moved around her, lit and continuous and entirely indifferent, the way cities are, the way she had always found quietly reassuring. She opened her business phone and began to read through her messages. She did not look back.